Hi Rob, so this is the video that I promised I'll make. Proceeding forward, this is what you'll be able to do to manage your front shoulder pain. So the main thing that we're dealing right now, as you know, is after you go full extension with your arm, you are starting to feel quite a bit of tension and pressure on your front shoulder head. So what we'll be doing here is, for the first few stretches, we'll be stretching the fascia, so the muscle around there, and we'll do exercises that challenge the strength of that area, because the more you move it within a sophisticated manner, the better the healing process is going to be. Okay, so first things first, we are going to do a child's pose. So as we all know, we go on towards the ground. We're going to bring our head towards our belly button or towards our chest, and we're going to have our arms in front of us. So having your head curling in and having your arms out. So after holding for 15 seconds, it should be quite intense. If you are experiencing not a lot of tension, you can always move your hands more forward. You can do that for 2 to 3 times, and as with everything that I'll be showing today, you'll be able to do that as many times as you want if it makes you feel good. Okay, so after doing, let's say, 2 to 3 sets of child's pose, what ideally you would grab is a bamboo staff. So here I have a bootleg version of just pole that I could make. And what you want to do here is you want to have the pole standing up. You want to go farther away from it, so that what you would do is you would keep the pole straight. You would have your other arm that's not doing anything go around you, and then you would just lean forward. So as you may guess, it's a little bit flimsy. As you may guess, this is very similar to a child's pose, just focusing on one part of your body at a time. So going into the deep stretch, feeling the intensity for 10-15 seconds, just allowing your muscle to be stretched. And again, do that for 2 to 3 sets, or if it feels really good, you can do that even 4 sets. Now for the next exercise is we are going to be putting our front shoulder in a really deep stretch. So what I mean by that is, if you have a front shoulder muscle that is coming off an injury or surgery, you will feel this a lot in that instance. You may not feel it at all if it's strong enough and you've already done some rehabilitation work. So here, let's take our bootleg staff, pull. What we're going to do is we're going to bring it over our back, and we're going to bring one arm going as close to our bum as we can, while the other one is quite high up. And from here on out, what we're going to do is we're going to bring the pole as much as we can downwards. So here is the maximum range of motion that I can achieve. So when I get to that point, I'm actively trying to push down my arm. So there's effort to go beyond what I can. Being there for about 3-5 seconds, then going upwards, reaching the full range of motion, and then trying to go even more if you can. So there are active effort within each end range of this movement. Then you switch arms and do that again. So with your Rob, we have seen that this movement makes you feel really good. So let's say do it 3 to 4 times. If you have anything that could resemble a pole that's quite lightweight, let's say, go ahead and do that. Okay, so coming from stretches, now I'm going to be doing a few strength exercises. So if you have a resistance band in your place, in your home, or in the gym, these are the things that you can start incorporating. The more comfortable you get, the more your front shoulder head is feeling okay. So one thing to be mindful of is the full range of motion. So we'll be doing general exercises for the surrounding musculature of the problem area, because if you look at the literature, it does talk about how you need to have the surrounding muscles strong and be able to do their part so that you could efficiently brace yourself and not to make your prime mover or prime muscle that is doing the action to be overworked. So I got a resistance band. So what you'll want to do is you want to find something that you can wrap it around. Let's say if I have this pole, what I'll want to do is maybe I'll want to go near a squat rack and put it on the edge of it so that it would be around it. For this instance, I'm going to use my door. And what we're going to be focusing on is retraction. So retraction, in other words, is bringing your shoulders backwards. It is a very good cue and a way to set yourself up for any pushing movement. The more you can brace, bring your shoulders down and back, the more you're going to feel your chest being engaged. And a lot of people, what they experience is they experience left shoulder pain that is attributed towards genetics, having a weaker side, not bracing enough. So that bracing is quite conducive towards making sure that we do not get injured after we get our front shoulder. So working on it and making sure that we don't need to spend some period of time to make it okay again. Okay, so again, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the resistance band. We're going to have our arms extended as much as we can. So be mindful that we're not rowing, we're not bending our arms, we are keeping our arms straight because this is a shoulder exercise. So depending on where you are comfortable or where is your strength, you may want to stand back further away from where the band is rubbing against, or you want to come closer. The closer you get, the less intense it will be. So from here on out, I'm extending my arms fully. I am thinking that, okay, if there is a button behind my back or an object, I want to touch it with my shoulders without moving my body. So what I'll do is I will just bring back my shoulders. What I'm doing here is I am holding for 3 to 5 seconds, really feeling that brace. And then slowly 3 seconds, allowing my arms to go forward. Just warming up our rear delts, our trapezius, and going forward. Okay, so that is just for our shoulder blades and our back musculature. Now, another exercise that we will be doing is we're going to be using the resistance band to do a front shoulder specific movement. So we're going to be extending our arm. That's going to be engaging our front shoulder quite a bit. So gotta be careful, gotta know your limits to where is the point where you start feeling pain. Being uncomfortable is okay. If you go a certain range of motion and it's quite uncomfortable, like let's say 8 out of 10 in terms of discomfort, just go shy of that. Go perhaps 60% of the way, just slightly above that pain threshold or that area where it's going to cause some disturbances, and just working yourself up, doing the exercise that way, you're going to be able to build up strength, and slowly you'll get more confidence, which is, I think, a big factor coming off from an injury or surgery. So what I'll be doing here is I will be using the resistance band. I will be bringing my leg towards the wall. What I'll be doing is I'll have the resistance band go on my foot, press up against, making sure that it doesn't allow me to hit myself in any way. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be pushing out my arm forward. So again, moving your arm forwards or in front of you, that is mainly a front shoulder head movement. So let's say you are doing this exercise and you got strong enough to not feel anything and you're quite comfortable. One thing that you can do, send further back. And now there's more tension. So one thing to keep in mind is whenever you're doing any rehabilitation work, focusing on the eccentric, so the second part of the movement, or getting back to the start of the movement where you're going to push. That is the phase of the movement which propagates the most healing. That's how a lot of people break through plateaus. So again, push through. I'm gonna slowly bring back my arm, so doing it around 3 to 5 seconds. Okay, so again, 2 or 3 sets of that. Now what we are going to do is we're going to be focusing on our lateral shoulder. So again, making sure that the surrounding musculature is able to perform and support. We don't want to have no support when it comes to doing movements, because if the surrounding musculature is weak, that means more workload, more than necessary. Okay, so what I have here is smaller resistance band. It's more so for more specific movement. So what I'll be doing is I'll be having this go around my arms, and I will be raising my arms upwards. So if you can imagine a reverse pyramid where the most narrow point of my arms is at the bottom, and as I'm going to be bringing them forward, I'm going to be bringing them outwards. So they're going up, and I am bringing my arms out more. It's constant tension. And I'm bringing them in, and my arms are narrowing. So feeling my lateral shoulder head being involved, seeing that tension coming back in. Okay. That's good. 2 to 3 sets of every exercise. And one more thing that we will be focusing on is engagement of our bicep. So depends on how much research you do. If you look at things that cause or may impact the quality of your passive feeling of your shoulder head, you will be able to see that there's quite a few recommendations of you doing bicep curls overhand mostly. With this, you're going to be feeling your bicep and your shoulder quite a bit. So what you're going to do is you'll be wanting to come in, got a resistance band like this. Now, what I'll do with the opposing arm is I'm going to be pulling it. The more farther away it is from this arm, the more tension and the more intensity I will feel. So again, first learn the movement, get comfortable, and then you can start pushing yourself within reason. Okay, so grab the resistance band, rolling over, pulling it back to the point where I can challenge myself but not kill myself, and then just allowing my arm to roll over. While I am doing this, I am keeping my elbow edge to the side of my rib cage. Just focusing on that. Well, let's say smaller movements, you can always do 10 to 20 reps. A good rule of thumb for any strength training or rehabilitation training is if you do movements up until you are tired, so that you could not do more than 1 or 2 reps, if you had to, so you hold a gun to your head, that's when you know you've sufficiently hit that mark of exhaustion. Okay, so after that, what we would be going towards to is more intense exercises. So there are a few upsides and downsides to proceeding this way. So the downside is, with all these exercises done, we're going to be quite fatigued. The front shoulder head is going to be quite tired. So if you're going to be doing this movement, you will definitely be feeling it a lot. But at the same time, using a bit more weight, whether it's kettlebells or dumbbells, that is the best opportunity that we have to incorporate this after we professionally warmed up and we know that, okay, if anything happens, we are at the best position to absorb any impact. So I don't have any dumbbells or kettlebells here, but I do have a water ball that's around 2 kilograms. So you can imagine that this would be any piece of equipment that you have. It could be a resistance band, which I'll show you some alternatives to using a dumbbell. So here, we're going to be focusing on the internal and external rotation on our rotator cuff. So continuing that. And with this, you will feel your shoulders being engaged quite a bit. Partially due to fatigue accumulating, and then just overall the surrounding musculature again being worked on. Okay, so let's see, I have 2 pairs, or a pair I should say. And we're going to be focusing on having our elbows to the side of our rib cage. And we're going to be bringing the dumbbells out, feeling the tension, coming back in. Again, let's remember what I said about the eccentric phase, or coming back to the starting point. That phase, or you lowering the weight, take your time. That is when it is the safest for you to use force or to exert effort without getting injured. So after doing this, what we can do is, let's say you don't have a dumbbell, you can use a resistance band to achieve the same stimulus. So the version with the resistance band, what it would look like is taking the resistance band and you're actively gonna bring your elbows towards your rib cage. So at the side, making sure that they don't move around. And you're gonna be pulling it apart. It's constant tension, feeling quite a bit. And then slowly bringing your arms in again. This pulling could be quite intense. If it's too intense for you, you could always bring your arms on the outside more. It's creating more of a gap in between your arms. And coming out. Okay, so next exercise. I like to call this exercise saying hello, because it resembles you waving. So what you're going to do is, you're going to take the imaginary kettlebell or dumbbell. You're going to have one hand, if you want to use one dumbbell at a time, go around your body. And you're going to be having your elbow at your shoulder level, and you're going to be bringing it forward. So one thing with this is it's important to be mindful of where are your elbows, because oftentimes you're going to be using a resistance band, which I'll show you the variation of that. Is you may struggle a lot with bringing your arm up, and then your body is going to twist, or it's going to lean back so that your shoulder or rotator cuff would not need to exert so much effort. So our bodies, they are inclined to cheat and make things as easy as it can be for us. And then potentially there's some value, but when you're going about very specific training, that's something that we need to be mindful of and to avoid. So the alternative to what we did with the water ball is using a resistance band. So what I'll do is I'll have the resistance band going under my foot. What I'll do here is exactly the same thing. I'm gonna bring my elbow just to about my shoulder level or ever so slightly below, and I'll try to keep my elbow where it is. I will just be trying to rotating outwards. So here, I'm feeling quite a bit of tension, and as best as I can, I'm trying to slow down on bringing the band downwards. So depending on where are you pulling, how you set up the resistance band, some things may be more difficult. So what I mean by that is, if you have the resistance band, you make a loop, you put it on the ground, you're pulling from an upwards direction, the most difficult part is going to be this. If you're going to be setting up your resistance band somewhere higher up, let's say, if there was a lamp, I would like tie it there, and then I would have the hanging there, I would feel most of the tension or being the most challenged coming downwards. It's a good idea to explore how you can make the concentric, which is the first phase of the movement or the first half, how to make that more difficult, and how to make the eccentric, the second phase, more difficult as well. So with that example that I gave you with setting up the resistance band upwards or somewhere higher up and pulling it downwards, that could be a good alternative for you if you find this very, very taxing or very difficult. That would take out most of the tension from the start and just focus on challenging you in the phase which is safer and more conducive to healing, really. Okay, so here are the exercises. If anybody else is watching this, you can try to implement some of these movements if you have any issues with your shoulders, especially your front shoulder head, or you're trying to improve your benching or any pushing movements. Okay, so that's the video. Any questions? Let me know.